This lesson is on solving proportion problems, sometimes called ratio problems, by multiplying or dividing. The main principle behind this problem is that the fractions, this fraction and this fraction, are supposed to be equivalent. We're going to fix things up so that they're equivalent. In order to make this fraction have a denominator, like that one, we'd have to take a third of 12. Now, in order to do that, you have to multiply both the top and the bottom of the fraction by the same number. So we'll multiply top and bottom by a third. When you do that, the top becomes 1/3 times 15, which is 5, and the bottom becomes 1/3 times 12, which is 4. Now compare this fraction to this fraction. They would be the same if g was 5. So g has to equal 5. In practice problem number 2, there are two boys running laps around a track. And in the problem they say that Tim runs 4 laps for every 3 laps that John runs. So let's put that down. So here we've written a simple equation that says that Tim's laps divided by John's laps, remember that's a ratio now when you divide, Tim's laps divided by John's laps is 4/3 because Tim runs 4 laps for every 3 laps that John runs. The next part of the problem says, what if John ran 18 laps rather than 3? Then how many laps would Tim run, assuming that he continues to run 4 laps for every 3 laps that Jim runs? If we make another fraction, with John's laps being 18, then the question is, what would Tim's laps, we'll call that T, have to be to make those fractions equivalent? Once again, let's try and find an equivalent fraction, the same ratio as this one, but we want to make this number, the denominator, into 18 instead of 3. Then the question becomes, what do you have to multiply 3 by in order to make it turn out to be 18? The answer is 6. So you multiply the numerator by 6 and the denominator by 6, and you get an equivalent fraction, which is 4 times 6, or 24, over 3 times 6, which is 18. And once again, that's supposed to be equal to Tim's laps when John's laps are 18. Well, you can tell by looking at those two ratios that in order for them to be equal, T is going to have to equal 24. That is, this number, just a second, this number here is going to have to be the same as that number right there. So T would have to be 24 in order for this fraction to be the same as that fraction. So the answer is Tim would run 24 laps when John runs 18. This ends this lesson on solving practice problems from your 6th grade math class using proportions or ratios.